Well, hey, welcome back. We appreciate you being here. You can see already by looking up at the screen, we are definitely doing something a little different today. We are going to be talking about division, right? So we are talking about quotients. I guess I can show division this way, this whatever, right? But we are going to be thinking, oh, like even as a fraction, right? Because every fraction is a division problem. But today we are going to be talking about division or quotients, finding the answers to these division problems. With fractions, and in this case, we're actually going to focus on the unit fraction by whole numbers. So today, what's different is actually we are starting with the concept of a fraction. Let's say like 1/2. And we're talking about like, well, what happens if you have to divide that into 3 equal parts? Scenario may be that there is half of a pizza left. You're going to split it evenly with 3 people. How much of the pizza is each person going to get, right? And so this concept gets a little tricky because it is kind of making sense of like, what does this mean? Like, what are we doing of it? And it is really in comparison of thinking about the whole itself, but also what's really great is with this skill, we will be able to use the inverse to help us double check, right? Like when we're done doing this work, if we use the inverse and turn around and just do a multiplication fact, not just any fact, but our division problem in the inverse as a multiplication, we should be able to double check our work to see if we've done that. So let's get to it. You know that today it's really going to be about that concept of being able to model because this helps us make sense of it. So we're going to be doing a lot of this work today, thinking about what is the model and what does that look like. So let's dive in, as they say. Jump on in. Here we go. So we're going to continue with this example here, 1/2 divided by 3. So again, a scenario that we could say if we want to make sense of this is that I have half a pizza. Again, I like to model, and just because it's a pizza, my model does not have to be around. This can still represent a pizza, right? But I have half of it. So I'm going to go ahead and have half my pizza. So there's half of my pizza. Now we're going to take half of this pizza. Again, thinking about my labels of rows and columns, and we're going to end up dividing it amongst 3 people. So as I do that, well, cool. I guess that just means here, right? This needs to represent the 3. So I'm going to actually partition this into 3 parts. Now, what is tricky with this is not if I just look at what I have shaded, but really what is it? What is the fractional part of the whole, right? What is the unit fraction that comes out of this work? So that's what we have to start thinking about. And this is where it's different. And this is where, honestly, yes, I agree. It's going to get confusing, right? It will. So I don't want you to get super confused or frustrated. I don't want you to get frustrated. You might get confused. You can get confused. That's fine. But I don't want you to get frustrated as we do this work because the more we practice it, the more it's going to eventually make sense. But let's just, again, look at what we did here. So what it's asking then is that how much each person gets in comparison of the whole. Now, if we're splitting, again, this half by 3 people, right? Well, this is the only amount of pizza that's left is this, and this, right? So I had to take half of it and cut it into these 3 parts. And if we thought about our 3 people to make sense of why we're doing this, here's my 3 people. And this is their name's A, and this person's name is B, and this person's name is C. It's amazing. They come from this family of alphabets. But right, so if we think about that and we were to take half this pizza and divide it with these 3 people, well, A is going to get this slice, B is going to get this slice, and C is going to get this slice. So if you think about what the answer is saying, the answer is not saying, well, how much is there? Well, we know how much there is. There's half. Or in this case, there's 3/6, but that's the same thing. And that's not what we're asking. We're asking is how much does a person get? Because remember, division is about equal grouping. And so what we can see here is that the reality is, it's a good color that now is going to stick out after all this. Let's go with purple. The reality is each person is going to get one of these slices, which compared to the whole is one slice out of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Because that's the unit fraction and that's what they're receiving. Okay. And that's the part that I think we have to really stop and think about. What does this mean? There was half of a pizza. I took that half, I cut it into 3 parts. So that means that each person is actually going to get 1/6 of the entire pizza. Because like I said before, if we looked at our model and just said, oh, what's shaded? Well, what's shaded is 3 out of 6. But that's not what each person's getting. That's just how much there is, which makes sense because that's equivalent to 1/2. Right? So that can be very tricky. And if what I just said there is even like, what, don't worry. We'll play more with this and make sense of it, but that's really what we're thinking about. The key component to all of this is really focusing on the unit fraction. Because again, we are cutting them into groups. And let's see if we can look at this another way to maybe help make sense of this. So in this scenario, we have 1/3. We're going to divide it by 4. So again, I'm going to model this time. Maybe I'll try to mix it up a little bit so it kind of makes sense, right? We are dividing. And one of the things we like to do with division is think about making equal groups. So I'm going to first start with my model of 1/3 here. So let's go this way. So here's 1/3. And, and definitely want to shade it and think about that. So this represents 1/3. And in this scenario, I don't know, there's 1/3 of a chocolate bar and you're going to share it with 4 friends. So how much does each person get in compared to the whole? Okay, well, our next bet here, our next job here is to think about, oh, well, I got to take this piece, this 1/3 piece, and I got to divide it into 4 groups. So I'm going to do that. 4. And again, now, maybe I'll make my 4 groups so we can see it. Because again, equal grouping, that was a technique we used in division before, right? If I have 6 and I divide it by 3, well, I'm going to make 3 circles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, well, there's 2 in each circle. So that goes back to this is, well, these are the pieces I have. I have piece A, B, C, and D. Those are the pieces. I have 4 pieces. So actually this person, they're going to get piece A, right? This person's going to get piece B. They get piece C. And they're going to get piece D. That would make sense, right? Of this 1/3 that we have is we cut it into 4s and we give, or into 4s, excuse me, into 4 pieces. We give each one of those pieces equally to each person. So then to find our answer, we think about, well, what is it that this one person got? Because they're all the same size. And we can see what they got was 1 out of, well, how many pieces are there total? Not how many do we have, but how many are total? And we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So actually, when you have 1/3 of a candy bar and 4 people share that equally, each person is receiving 1/12 of the total candy bar. Okay. So again, I get it. This can be very challenging. I think this is one of the most challenging skills. So it's all about kind of like making sense of this and stepping back and drawing the pictures. Like, look what I'm doing. I'm really trying to make sense of this by drawing some pictures. And remembering what division means. Division means equal groups. So if I take 1/3 and I put them into 4 equal groups, well, I actually end up with 1/12 in each group. So let's continue our journey. And in this case, now we're going to play around here with a word problem. We already turned those other ones into word problems, but let's take a look at this one. It says that there is a juice container. Cool. I'm going to stop right there and I already draw my juice container. That is 1/5 full. Okay, cool. I mean, here's the thing that I love about this is I'm going to create these models before I've even read it. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4. So 5 pieces. And then I got shaded in one of them. So it's 1/5 full. Okay. You want to share that juice equally. There's a good keyword, equally. All right. So again, if I'm sharing equally, my brain is already saying we divided, go ahead, get ready. With 4 friends. what fraction of the whole will each person get? Okay, so we're going to take this 1/5, this container of juice, and it's filled 1/5 full. And then you're splitting that 1/5 equally into cups for your friends, right? So how much would go in each cup? We could even think about it that way, because I'm not going to just sit here and pour it on their head, right? I'm going to pour it into these cups equally. So to help me visualize that and see that, this model is kind of small. I feel like I'm kind of shoving this in. So I'm going to jump to the other page so we can do this so it looks better here. So let's go again. Here's our juice container. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, I did 4 lines to make 5 sections. It is 1/5 filled. And what we're doing is we're taking this 1/5 and we're going to split it equally or divide it amongst 4 cups. And we're really just wondering, well, how much would go in each cup? And it's going to be the same amount because it's equal grouping. Well, to help me visualize that as a model, then that just means here, if this is a representation of 1/5, then up here I need to represent 4. And then again, we can see what's shaded: A, B, C, and D. There's 4 parts. So actually this means they're going to get A, they're going to get the B, they're going to get the C, and they're going to get the D. But that's not the answer. Okay, 1/5 divided by 4 does not equal A. That would be an equation. But we can figure out, well, what is A? What is the value of A? Because the value of A is the same value of B, is the same value of C, and the same value of D, because actually these are all unit fractions. So let's look at what that is. Well, again, I do know then that this is 1 out of, and then I just got to think how many pieces I have. Well, looks like there's 5 here, 4 up here. So there's 20 pieces. So that means each person is going to end up with 1/20 of the container, right? Each one of these would be 1/20. And so one of the things I also talked about here is like, well, okay, we've done all this work. Can we use the inverse to check that? Meaning, if I'm solving a division problem, can I turn around and multiply to double check my work? And I say, let's find out. That's what I say. I say, let's find out. That's my let's find out voice. So if we just found out that 1/5 divided by 4 equals 1/20, then in theory, 1/20 times 4 should get us 1/5. Okay. Well, we do know when we're multiplying fractions, in this case here, as we double check, we always do want to make sure that both of them are fractions. Right. This is the how-to part. So 1/20 is a fraction. 4 is not a fraction. So I'm going to make it a fraction. And I'll just put it over 1, because 4 is the same thing as 4 divided by 1, which is 4. So these are all equal or equivalent. So 4 over 1 is the equivalent fraction of 4. And if that doesn't make sense, there are videos in our library to go back and make sense of this. We talked about this concept probably a couple of months ago, so it's all good if you kind of forgot. Okay, now I'm going to multiply across the top. So 1 times 4 equals 4. 20 times 1 equals 20. So actually we get 4/20, and they're telling us that it's 1/5. Oh, well, actually I can reduce here, can't I? These are both, let's see here, 4, 20. These are both even numbers, so I can divide by 2. So 4 divided by 2 equals 2, and 20 divided by 2 is 10. And these are still even, so I can divide again. And remember, what I'm doing here is I'm reducing, right? I'm just finding equivalent fractions, but I'm using what we kind of call smaller numbers, which gets tricky because it's not like the value's changing. We're just using digits lower down on the scale, if you will. So 2 divided by 2 is 1, and then 10 divided by 2 is 5. And there you have it. That is actually the answer. Wow. Okay, so let's just knock this out with one more, and then we will kind of move on. And again, you know the routine. It's all right. This is confusing. Try to watch it again. And if it's double confusing after watching it twice, then definitely message me. I got to figure out a better way to help you out with this. But also, don't be afraid to ask questions, right? We're going to ask questions so things make sense. That is the concept of math. That is the world of math. That is how we do the math. We don't expect to know it right away. And if we don't know it, that doesn't mean that we need to just give up. Let's just try and follow through and see what we do. So here's 1/8, and we're going to divide that by 6. So again, if we think about a scenario, right? Maybe there's a bag of chips. Maybe I have a bag of chips, and this is actually a common one I get a lot. And there's only 1/8 of that bag left. So there's 4, 1, 2, 3. So there's 8. And actually all that's left down here, it's like 1/8 of the bag. But you're about to sit down and watch a movie, and there are 6 of you. And you're like, oh man, the 6 of us, we really want to eat these chips, but we got to share them equally because that's what we do. And this is the voice we use when we're eating chips and watching movies. It's the, oh man, we want these chips voice. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're going to take this 1/8, right? This 1/8 of your chip bag that's left, and we're going to split it equally among these 6 people, which again, even in this model, look what I can do. I can cut this into 6 this way. And so then that means we have an A, a B, a C, a D, an E, and an F. And this person would get the A amount, and this person would get the B amount, and they get the C and D and the E and the F. I should have been drawing those in their heads the whole time. Why didn't I think of that? That would have been fun. Right? So that's what they're getting. So then we just have to figure out, well, what does that mean? What is in each one of these, right? Because it's, again, the equal parts, 1/8 being put into 6 groups. Well, 1/8 being put into 6 group ends up being 1, right? Because it's 1 piece out of 48. So when you have to split 1/8 of a bag of chips with 6 people, you're actually all only getting 1/48 of the entire bag. And if you're not sure where I got 48, I just thought about this as an array. I know I have 6 up here because I made 6 lines. I have 8 over here. So 6 times 8 is 48, one of my favorite math facts. And that is what that means. That means there's 48. I guess I could have drawn that chip bag way bigger to make sense of this. So there you have it. That's kind of what we're doing today. And again, it's okay. It makes no sense, right? That's like, this is confusing stuff. So keep a positive attitude throughout this process, kind of watch, draw the pictures. I think that that's the biggest factor. Like if you really model it and think about, okay, what's happening? And no matter the problem with it, whether it's a word problem or not, if you can make up a story in your head, then you can create the models that help you fit it, right? You have 1/8 of a bag of chips, 6 people are going to eat it. How much does each person get if you spread that out equally? Or you have 1/8 of your homework left to do, and you're going to do it over 6 days. So how much will you spend on each one of those days? Well, over those 6 days, you just have to spend 1/48 of that time to get that work done, 1/48 of your work to get done. So that actually makes it seem smaller and cool. If you're like, oh, I have 1/8 of my homework. Well, if I split it over 6 minutes, then I will only be doing 1/48 per minute. That seems like nothing. I don't know why that was your homework voice. Anyway, that's it. We're done here for now. And we'll see you next time. We appreciate you. Thank you for your hard work. Remember, keep asking those questions, keep working hard, and stay positive.